It's April 8, 2008. Iran's president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, steps out of his car, his signature earth tone jacket catching the flash of countless cameras. He's flanked by scientists, advisors, and the press. But this isn't just a photo op, it's a message to the world. Deep beneath the desert sands lies one of Iran's most secretive facilities, Natanz, a nuclear enrichment plant shrouded in speculation. Today, Ahmadinejad isn't hiding it. He's here to unveil it, to proclaim that Iran is on the cusp of nuclear power, and that no one can stop them. As the cameras follow him underground, a labyrinth of gleaming metal comes into view. Halls lined with centrifuges hum relentlessly, enriching uranium for nuclear energy. Or perhaps something more ominous. This is where science and strategy collide. And while Ahmadinejad marvels at the progress, one detail in the crowd sends ripples through intelligence agencies worldwide. Iran's defense minister, Mostafa Mohammad Najjar, standing at his side. A defense minister touring a peaceful energy facility? To many, Najjar's presence signals something darker, a veiled ambition for weapons, not power. Ahmadinejad leans over a monitor, engrossed in the display of Natanz's capabilities. Rows of green cubes flicker on the screen, each representing a centrifuge hard at work. But nestled among them are a few red cubes. Malfunctions. What caused them? Thousands of miles away, at the NSA headquarters in Maryland, a team of analysts studies the image. These aren't field agents or operatives, just a group of hackers armed with code and creativity. They know the answer. Those red cubes are their handiwork. Behind the scenes, a silent war is unfolding. Operation Olympic Games, a top-secret mission to infiltrate Iran's nuclear program, is in motion. At its heart lies a groundbreaking weapon, a computer worm capable of destroying physical infrastructure. You know its name, Stuxnet, the first cyber weapon designed to cause real-world damage. This is Veil, where we uncover stories hidden in the shadows of history. From covert operations to untold mysteries, we delve into the unseen forces shaping our world. And today, we pull back the curtain on the weapon that redefined warfare. When cybersecurity experts first discovered Stuxnet in 2010, they were stunned. The code was 20 times larger than an average virus, with 4 zero-day exploits. Vulnerabilities so obscure, not even developers knew they existed. On the black market, these exploits could sell for $100,000 each. But Stuxnet wasn't just about access, it was about destruction. The code carried 2 stolen digital certificates from companies in Taiwan, making it appear legitimate. Yet, its purpose was anything but innocent. Stuxnet wasn't built to steal passwords or credit card information. Its target was hyper-specific: industrial computers, the kind that manage valves, motors, and the centrifuges essential for enriching uranium. As analysts pored over the code, the implications became clear. Stuxnet was a weapon of industrial sabotage, its origins traced to manufacturers in Iran. And as they dug deeper, the timing painted an undeniable picture. In the early 2000s, tensions between the US, Israel, and Iran were at an all-time high. Nuclear scientists were being assassinated, mysterious explosions rocked Iranian pipelines, and Israel remained ever watchful of Iran's nuclear ambitions. The analysis of Stuxnet revealed something chilling. The version under scrutiny was labeled 1.1. This wasn't the beginning. There were earlier iterations, meaning the operation was deeper, older, and more sophisticated than anyone realized. To understand how Iran became a target, we need to trace its nuclear ambitions back decades, to the man who kickstarted a global black market for nuclear technology. Abdul Qadir Khan, better known as AQ Khan, was a Pakistani metallurgist working for the Dutch company Orenco in the 1970s. In 1974, when India tested its first nuclear weapon, Khan saw the writing on the wall. Determined to secure Pakistan's defense and make a fortune, He stole blueprints for Orenco's nuclear centrifuges and fled to Pakistan. By the 1980s, Khan was running Pakistan's nuclear program, selling the P1 centrifuge to the world's most authoritarian regimes. From North Korea to Libya, nuclear technology was suddenly accessible. Iran, embroiled in a brutal 8-year war with Iraq, took notice. In 1987, with hundreds of thousands dead and a stalemate looming, Iran struck a deal with Khan. The P1 centrifuge would be the cornerstone of Iran's nuclear program. Over the next decade, Iran quietly built its stockpile, watching as events in the region reinforced the urgency of nuclear armament. In 1991, the Gulf War proved how quickly US-led coalitions could dismantle regimes. Iraq, a longtime rival, surrendered after just 6 weeks. By 2003, US forces deposed Saddam Hussein in a matter of months. Iran saw the pattern. Without nuclear weapons, their sovereignty was at risk. Determined to secure their future, Iran constructed a secret enrichment facility in Natanz, nestled in the shadow of remote, snow-capped mountains. Using Khan's centrifuges, Iranian scientists worked relentlessly to enrich uranium. By 2002, their efforts were exposed by a group of dissidents in France. Natanz was no longer a secret. Under pressure from the International Atomic Energy Agency, (IAEA), the US, and the United Nations, Iran insisted their program was for energy, not weapons. In 2004, Iran entered the Paris Agreement, agreeing to suspend enrichment while negotiating with France, Germany, and the UK. But while Europe pursued diplomacy, the US and Israel took a different approach. In 2003, intelligence agencies seized a cargo ship carrying nuclear centrifuges bound for Libya, a massive breakthrough in tracking nuclear proliferation. While this was a devastating blow to Libya's nuclear ambitions, it offered something far more valuable: a glimpse into Iran's nuclear program. The centrifuges were strikingly similar to the P1 models designed by A.Q. Khan, the architect of Iran's nuclear blueprint. Without hesitation, the US shipped the equipment to Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee and the Negev Nuclear Research Center in Israel. There, scientists and engineers dismantled the machines, studied their vulnerabilities, and began designing modified versions. The target was clear: Iran's next-generation P2 centrifuges. But while the centrifuges were being reverse-engineered, a new player entered the stage. In 2005, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, a hardline fundamentalist, was elected president of Iran. A veteran of conflicts and a staunch nationalist, Ahmadinejad had one goal: ensure Iran's sovereignty through nuclear deterrence. Shortly after taking office, Ahmadinejad withdrew Iran from the 2004 Paris Agreement, reigniting its nuclear program with unprecedented vigor. However, Iran faced a persistent obstacle. Its centrifuges were unreliable, prone to wear and tear long before they could refine enough uranium for nuclear fuel or weapons. The solution was industrial innovation, a cascade system. By connecting centrifuges in intricate networks of pipes, valves, and programmable logic controllers, Iran created a system that could continue enrichment even if individual centrifuges failed. At the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility, deep beneath layers of security, these cascades roared to life. But Iran's innovation was also its Achilles heel. By introducing industrial computers to manage their operations, they inadvertently opened the door to vulnerabilities. If hackers could infiltrate the cascade network, they could unleash chaos, or worse, catastrophic failure. And that's exactly what the US National Security Agency and Israel's Mossad were working on. At Fort Meade, Maryland, and Sandia National Laboratories in New Mexico, NSA operatives, on-net operators, as they were called, crafted a code designed to manipulate the same industrial systems Iran relied upon. Israeli intelligence worked alongside them, adding layers of sophistication to the weapon. The first tests were run on the confiscated P1 centrifuges, configured in a cascade identical to Natanz's system. With no uranium in the machines, the operatives uploaded the code, an early version of Stuxnet. At first, the centrifuges hummed as expected, but then a shrill, piercing whine filled the air. The machines began spinning wildly out of control, vibrating violently. Seconds later, metal shredded against metal as the centrifuges tore themselves apart. The remains of a destroyed centrifuge were packed up and flown to Washington, D.C. In the Situation Room, intelligence officers laid the mangled machine before President George W. Bush. As they explained the cause, a computer worm capable of sabotaging industrial infrastructure, the president picked up a jagged piece of debris. After a long pause, he nodded. "I think this might be worth it," he said. Operation Olympic Games was officially underway. But there was a problem. The Natanz facility was virtually impenetrable. Its network was air-gapped, meaning it wasn't connected to the internet. Without direct access, Stuxnet would remain dormant. The CIA turned to the Dutch intelligence agency, AIVD, which had already begun infiltrating Natanz. Their solution, a mole. The mole, an Iranian engineer working for a front company, gained entry to Natanz in 2007. By then, the facility housed over 1,700 centrifuges, running at full capacity. The stakes were higher than ever. Armed with a USB stick, the mole passed through layers of security. Anti-aircraft guns pointed skyward, checkpoints bristling with guards, and an elevator descending over 50 feet underground. Deep within the heart of Natanz, the engineer reached a computer terminal. With steady hands, he inserted the USB stick. The payload, a carefully crafted worm, was transferred to the system. The mole removed the drive, unaware of the Pandora's box he had just opened. At that moment, Stuxnet began its journey, silently infiltrating the Natanz network. But thousands of miles away, the skies over Israel were anything but silent. In June 2008, the sun over the Mediterranean disappeared. Not from an eclipse, but from the shadows of over 100 Israeli fighter jets. F-15s and F-16s streaked across the sky, supported by aerial refueling tankers and helicopters poised for rescue missions. From Israel to southern Greece, the roar of engines filled the air as the Israeli Air Force demonstrated its might. But this wasn't just a show of force. It was a warning. For decades, Israel had viewed nuclear proliferation in the region as an existential threat. In 1981, they bombed Iraq's Osirak nuclear reactor, crippling its nuclear ambitions. In 2007, they obliterated a suspected Syrian nuclear facility. Now, in 2008, they were preparing for the unthinkable, an attack on Iran's nuclear site at Natanz. For the US, this was a nightmare scenario. Bombing Natanz would almost certainly ignite a regional war. But diplomatic efforts to curtail Iran's nuclear ambitions had failed. Iran, emboldened by years of conflict and a deep desire to secure its sovereignty, refused to back down. There was, however, another option. A weapon already in play, a silent weapon. Stuxnet wasn't designed to destroy Natanz outright. Its purpose was subtler, to undermine Iran's nuclear program from within, delaying progress so thoroughly that a bomb would never be built. It was sabotaged by attrition. The first version of Stuxnet, uploaded by the Dutch mole, was deliberately subtle. To avoid detection and retaliation, the worm was made autonomous, with no external command or control. This independence required dense, complex code capable of spreading, monitoring, and manipulating the system entirely on its own. Its first task was to infiltrate every computer in the Natanz network, mapping the facility's operations. Stuxnet then focused on the industrial logic controllers, regulating the centrifuge cascades. It recorded normal operating data, pressures, speeds, and temperatures, and saved it. When it began its sabotage, it played back this recorded data, ensuring operators saw nothing out of the ordinary. In the meantime, Stuxnet began its work. The worm subtly manipulated the valves controlling the pressure in the centrifuges. It increased stress on the delicate rotors, gradually wearing them down. No explosions, no catastrophic failures, just accelerated decay. Centrifuges that should have lasted a decade were rendered useless in a fraction of the time. The goal was simple: keep Iran scientists endlessly replacing centrifuges, unable to maintain consistent progress. Over time, this inefficiency would undermine their confidence and demoralize the program. The hope was that, eventually, Iran would abandon its nuclear ambitions altogether. But the reality on the ground was different. By 2008, Ahmadinejad's tour of Natanz revealed an unsettling truth. Iran was expanding its enrichment capabilities faster than Stuxnet was slowing them down. Progress was visible. The centrifuges were spinning. Then came Israel's military drills. To Mossad and the NSA, this was a clear signal. If Stuxnet couldn't stop Iran, Israel might. Memories of Iraq and Syria loomed large, and the risk of escalation grew. There was another complication. The Dutch mole who had delivered Stuxnet lost access to Natanz. The mole had been vital to Stuxnet's success, but his role was over. The contract with the front company had ended, cutting off direct access to Natanz. Now, the NSA and Unit 8200 faced a critical challenge: how to deliver an upgraded version of Stuxnet into one of the most secure facilities in the world. The solution was bold. Tailored Access Operations, the NSA team overseeing Stuxnet, embedded stolen digital certificates and 4 zero-day exploits into the new code, enabling it to spread rapidly and covertly. They also re-engineered Stuxnet's payload. No longer focused solely on pressure valves, the worm now targeted the centrifuge rotors directly. The plan was simple: overdrive the rotors to dangerous speeds, then abruptly slow them to a crawl. The goal wasn't a catastrophic explosion, but relentless wear and tear. Centrifuges would degrade faster, breaking down months or years ahead of schedule. And all the while, Stuxnet's false data streams would assure operators that everything was functioning perfectly. To deliver this upgraded worm, the NSA turned to a creative solution: supply chain infiltration. 5 manufacturing companies providing parts and maintenance to Natanz were chosen as unwitting hosts. Once Stuxnet infected their computers, it spread like a virus, waiting for the moment one of these suppliers' employees unknowingly carried it into Natanz. In 2008, the new version of Stuxnet arrived. For the engineers at Natanz, the sound of thousands of centrifuges spinning at 63,000 revolutions per minute was routine, a steady hum that signaled normal operations. But one day, the pitch began to climb. The rotors spun faster and faster, reaching an ear-splitting whine. Panic set in as the frequency jumped to 84,000 RPM, pushing the machines far beyond their limits. Desperate, the engineers scrambled to shut down the cascade. Yet their computers showed green cubes and normal readings, as if nothing was wrong. The big red emergency shutoff buttons didn't respond. The rotors screamed louder, threatening to shatter. Then, just as abruptly as it began, the chaos stopped. The high-pitched whine returned to the familiar hum of normal operation. Relieved but confused, the engineers blamed a software glitch and kept watch. For weeks, everything appeared fine, but Stuxnet wasn't done. A month later, the worm struck again. This time, it slowed the rotors to a crawl, just 120 revolutions per minute. Again, the engineers panicked, fearing the centrifuges would destabilize and self-destruct. And again, their monitors insisted all systems were normal. After a few tense minutes, the centrifuges returned to full speed. While no explosions occurred, the damage was real. By August 2009, 600 centrifuges had been removed from operation due to wear and tear. Over the next 6 months, another 464 were taken offline. The cascading failures frustrated President Ahmadinejad, who saw his nuclear ambitions faltering. For Iran, the setbacks were devastating. The program was hemorrhaging money, resources, and morale. Replacing centrifuges became a Sisyphean task. Progress lost as fast as it was gained. For the NSA and Mossad, this was Stuxnet's genius. The worm didn't need to destroy. It simply needed to delay, demoralize, and disrupt. But the operation's secrecy was about to unravel. In the effort to ensure Stuxnet reached Natanz, The worm had been spread to 5 manufacturers, infecting their networks. The code was designed to operate only under the hyper-specific conditions of the Natanz facility. But their confidence couldn't be shared. They couldn't explain it to the world, or even to their own governments. That silence would prove costly. On a sunny day in June 2010, Sergei Olesin, a cybersecurity professional in Belarus, attended a wedding when his phone buzzed. A client in Iran was reporting repeated computer crashes, blue screens of death, and unexplained reboots, even on freshly installed systems. By Monday, Sergei remotely accessed the affected network. What he found stunned him. The malware infecting his client's machines was unlike anything he had ever seen. It used a rootkit to hide itself, leveraged stolen digital certificates to bypass security protocols, and exhibited a level of complexity far beyond the capabilities of typical cybercriminals. Sergei shared his findings online, igniting a global frenzy among cybersecurity experts. Within months, the world was racing to uncover the truth about the worm that would soon be named Stuxnet. At the US Department of Homeland Security, Sean McGurk, head of cybersecurity, analyzed the code and was alarmed by its sophistication. He testified before Congress, warning that Stuxnet posed a grave threat to critical infrastructure. Across the Atlantic, Vice President Joe Biden and other senior US officials were furious. They had been assured that Stuxnet would remain contained within Natanz, undetected by Iran or the global cybersecurity community. Now, the operation was a public spectacle, its secrets laid bare. The media pressed for answers. Both the US and Israeli governments denied involvement, but the worm's sophistication left little doubt. Only state-sponsored actors like the NSA and Israel's Unit 8200 could have created something so advanced. By September 2010, cybersecurity expert Ralph Langer made a critical breakthrough. Stuxnet's payload targeted industrial systems with configurations that matched the centrifuge cascades at Natanz. It was now clear Stuxnet was a weapon, and Natanz was its only target. Iran acted swiftly. By November, operations at Natanz were halted as engineers purged Stuxnet from their networks. For weeks, they wiped computers, reformatted systems, and tried to rebuild confidence in their operations. By January 2011, Stuxnet's operational life had ended. While Stuxnet succeeded in slowing Iran's nuclear progress, its escape into the wild diminished its long-term impact. If it had stayed confined to Natanz, the worm might have shaken Iranian officials' confidence in their nuclear ambitions, leaving them in the dark about the source of their problems. Instead, Iran pinpointed the cyber attack, purged the worm, and doubled down on its nuclear program. By 2010, Mossad escalated its efforts, allegedly assassinating 4 Iranian nuclear scientists over the next decade. Iran vowed vengeance, and the region teetered on the brink of conflict. Yet, Stuxnet's brilliance lay in its design. Unlike sanctions that starved civilians or assassinations that claimed lives, Stuxnet inflicted no direct casualties. It was a weapon of precision, aiming to disrupt rather than destroy. But the very qualities that made it effective also made it dangerous. Stuxnet's code is now out in the world. It's studied, copied, and repurposed by hackers, nations, and cybercriminals alike. For years, experts warned of Stuxnet-inspired attacks, and in December 2015, those fears materialized. A cyber attack crippled part of Ukraine's power grid, leaving 200,000 people without electricity during the holidays. Despite its rarity, Stuxnet set a chilling precedent. Cyber-physical attacks had moved from theory to reality, proving that digital warfare could have devastating real-world consequences. As for Iran, its nuclear program persists. By 2021, Iran had stockpiled over 3,200 kilograms of enriched uranium, enough for 3 nuclear weapons if further refined. That same year, an explosion rocked Natanz. While Iranian officials blamed Israel, conflicting reports suggested an internal saboteur. The future of Iran's nuclear ambitions remains uncertain, as does the landscape of cyber warfare. What other operations remain hidden in classified files? What technologies will emerge to challenge the next generation of cybersecurity? Only time will tell. Thanks for uncovering the unknown with Veil. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss what's hidden in the shadows.